Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers came into Thursday night's game needing three things. They needed Julio to be, something close to his elite self. They needed the offense to show up, and they needed the bullpen to cobble together some innings. They get all three things. They beat the Pirates to win the series and cut their NL West deficit to half a game over the D-backs, who lost to the Mets again. So much to talk about from this, so let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. Then you could be an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. My co-host is Vince Samperio. We're doing a split episode today, so I will be with you for the first half. Vince will be with you to wrap things up at the end. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Yeah, so this was a big game on Thursday night for the Dodgers. They came in. A four-game series is always hard because to win the series, you have to win at least 3 out of 4. And that's a hard thing to do against any team. The Pirates, the Dodgers struggled against them earlier in the season. They've struggled at times against them in this series. And so coming into this, it was the difference between, are we going to win the series or split the series? And that's a big deal at this point in the season, where the Dodgers are in the standings and everything. And we talked on yesterday's episode about it was kind of an uphill battle because they had Julio pitching, who has not looked good. Obviously it's been very limited time. One start back from the injured list, he looked really bad. His last start before going on the injured list, he looked bad. And so there were some concerns. We also expressed some optimism. After his last start, we talked about the fact that, a lot of his issues could have just been command issues, because if you're not getting swing and miss, it doesn't necessarily mean your stuff is bad. The numbers showed that Julio's stuff was still good. He just wasn't commanding it, so he wasn't throwing it where he wanted to. And so we talked about optimism, and what we saw on Thursday night was all of our optimism in real life form. Julio had excellent command of his changeup and his slurve, and he had good command of his fastball. Fastball had the ride that we are used to, and really good movement on the slurve and good deception on the changeup. He got, what was it, eight or nine strikeouts in 6 innings. I think it was 8. Just a really, so much more swing and miss than we've come to expect from him, even when he's been his elite self. At times it's he's getting weak contact. He's not getting the swing and miss. He had the swing and miss going. He only allowed 3 hits. Those were all consecutively in the second inning. And one of them should have been caught. David Peralta misjudged the line drive. And so one of the 2 runs that Julio allowed shouldn't have scored. And so realistically, he should have gone 6 innings, 1 run allowed, 2 hits. It's hard to ask for anything more than that from anybody, let alone a guy who has been injured and has looked bad. So Julio gave us everything we could have hoped for. But still, even with that, he was limited because he has been injured. So he was limited to 6 innings, 90 pitches. He threw 6 innings and 88 or 89 pitches. So basically exactly what Dave Roberts would in the game. Roberts would have been happy with 5 innings. He got 6 innings, all he could have hoped for from that, which meant the Dodgers had 3 innings that their bullpen needed to close out the game. And another thing we talked about yesterday is how in the world are they going to do this? And Yency Almonte did go on the paternity list. His wife had their baby. Congratulations to the Almontes. I believe the 6th Dodger to go on the paternity list this year. And I think we have another one coming up later this year. I don't remember who it is, but we've got one more coming. So congratulations to the Almontes, but it did leave the Dodgers a little shorthanded. And terrible news that we got before the game that Daniel Hudson is out with another knee injury. A sprained knee, some knee injury, not as bad as his torn ACL last year, and it's in the other knee, but it is serious. And Dave Roberts said it's going to be a long time, that he hopes Hudson will be back this year. When you still got 3 months left in the season and you're talking about, we hope he can get back. It's a big deal. And the emotion of last night's save. And then, we had heard that he was emotional in his interview after the game. Turns out that it was a lot of those emotions probably had to do with knowing that he was injured again, because it happened on the second to last pitch that he threw. So that strikeout of Jack Sawinski to end the game is all the more impressive, that Hudson was able to execute that pitch while injured. But so he went on the injured list. The good news was Brusdar Graterol didn't have to go on the injured list. He threw before the game and said he was feeling good. So the three relievers the Dodgers used in this game were Graterol, who they didn't know if he was going to be on the injured list or not. He pitched the 8th, and the 7th and 9th were taken down by guys who were in the minor leagues 24 hours ago. Nick Robertson got the 7th inning, Alex Vesia got the 9th inning, and all three of them were awesome. Graterol gave up a little cheap infield single to lead off the 9th inning. Other than that, they were just elite, and Graterol erased that with a double play. So everything you could have hoped for from the bullpen, more than we could have hoped for, really, on the pitching side, to get through this game with a questionable starting pitcher and a questionable bullpen and allow just 2 runs, and it should have just been 1 probably. Man, we will take that. And then on the offensive side, the offense got things done. It looked like it was going to be a really, really good game. After 2 batters, the Dodgers are up 2-0. Mookie Betts doubled and Freddie Freeman homered. And then Johan Oviedo settled in. He ended up pitching into the 8th, or at least, he went deep in the game, and but just allowed those 2 runs until the bottom of the 6th, when Julio was done pitching. Julio leaves in a tie game and thinking the Dodgers need to score for him. And once again, a double by Freddie Freeman and then a home run by Max Muncy gave the Dodgers the lead that they wouldn't get back. They tacked on another run later on a double by Mookie and a single by Freeman. And it was 5 runs. I said yesterday I wanted 13 runs, but that was because I didn't know how good the pitching was going to be. 5 runs turned out to be plenty. And all in all, just a really, really good team win, and a lot of things to be optimistic about that. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to talk about kind of the reasons for optimism from this game. I'll probably temper that optimism a little bit, just because that's kind of how I am. But I think there's a lot to feel good about this game and going forward. So I'll be back in a minute with that. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Look, buying tickets to events shouldn't be stressful. Whatever you look for, tickets to the Dodger game, tickets to a concert, Taylor Swift. I've been trying to get Taylor Swift tickets for my daughter as a graduation present. Man, those things are expensive. But I found pretty good deals on Gametime. Now I just need to, start a GoFundMe to pay for them, because even on Gametime they're expensive, but they're a lot less expensive than I found a lot of places. And you know why? Gametime guarantees I'm going to get the best price. So whatever you look for, comedy show, theater, anything you can buy tickets for, you can buy the tickets through Gametime. And you don't got to plan months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. And they even have exclusive flash deals on tickets for all the games, the comedy shows, anything you want. And the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So you go to Gametime, download the app, or go to gametime.co, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, I am back. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. It really does mean a lot to us. If you are watching on YouTube, love to hear from you through the YouTube comment section. If you're listening on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you through social media or email or whatever. Vince will give you all that contact info at the end, like we always do. And I also want to remind you that you can catch every Dodger game on the Hometown Dodgers radio feed on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Just launch the SXM app and search for Dodgers. you can also catch this podcast on the SXM app by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And with all of that that we've talked about in this game, Dodgers winning the series over the Pirates after that frustrating series over with the Royals. We talked about that road trip. The Dodgers won 2 out of 3 from the Rockies. You'd love to sweep, but 2 out of 3 is not bad. If they could have won 2 out of 3 from the Royals, successful road trip. They lost 2 out of 3, and it was frustrating. And there was a frustrating loss in this series against the Pirates when the Dodgers blew a 9th inning lead. But all in all, the Dodgers won 3 out of 4 games in this series. And one reason for optimism, like I mentioned, is Julio. Julio looked really, really good. And, like I said, he was bad in his last start before he went on the injured list. We have no idea how much of that was related to the injury. He was bad in his first start back. We have no idea how much of that was due to rust or, whatever it was. But the version of Julio that we saw on Thursday night, and it's not just results. Like some people say, well, it's just the Pirates, they're a bad team or whatever. And I'm not even basing it on the results or how bad he looked. Made the hitters look. It's the stuff. And you can watch the stuff and you can see the way that slurve was working on Thursday night. Julio would have been successful against any team in baseball with that slurve, with that changeup, with that fastball command. Other than one plate appearance to Ke'Bryan Hayes, like the command was really good. Even when he gave up the hits, he was making decent pitches. And in that 6th inning, he did walk Ke'Bryan Hayes, and he just lost command of the fastball. Arm side fastball missed in the same spot 3 times in a row to walk Hayes. Got out of that inning. And other than that, like, he was just dominant. And that's something, like, obviously, anytime you have an elite starting pitcher, it helps your team. If the Dodgers could get the version of Julio that existed last year and the year before, the second half, that would be a huge, huge boost to this team, because as we've talked about on this show, starting pitching kind of is a catalyst for everything, because one of the reasons the bullpen has struggled so much is because the starting pitching has struggled to get deep in the games. We saw it here on Thursday night. Julio goes 6 innings, and then you have 3 relievers going an inning each. The offense did their part, and so they're low-stress innings for the relievers, so they can just come in pumping strikes, and they get the job done. And, yeah, they're going to have hiccups, whatever, but the bullpen will be a lot better if the starting pitching is going deep in games. And so having Julio there, Kershaw will hopefully be back shortly after the All-Star break from his injury and keep going deep in games. And then, Bobby Miller has shown signs of getting deep in games. Emmett Sheehan has what it takes to get deep in games. Tony Gonsolin, still a question mark, but, hopefully he can get that command back, because the Dodgers have the makings of a decent rotation. And I still think they're going to pursue starting pitching at the All-Star break, and I think they should. But right now, we still are not the All-Star break, the trade deadline, but we've still got 3-4 weeks until the trade deadline. And so 3.5 weeks or something. So there's no starting pitching to be had right now. And so they need to get by with what they have, because they're battling in the division. Vince will talk more in the next segment about the National League West race. The D-backs lost again, and a lot of that, like, the Dodgers need wins right now. And so they need their pitching until they can trade for reinforcements. They need their pitching to step up. And so that's one major reason for optimism from this game. We also saw Max Muncy playing really good defense. The defense has been a question mark for Muncy. He has his stretches where he looks good, but he got a lot of action. Julio was, when he wasn't striking guys out, he was getting ground balls. And Muncy, other than the 2-run double, where Muncy was off the line more, everything else, Muncy was in position and I'm not saying Muncy was out of position on that one. It was just the one ball down the line that he didn't get to, and it just hugged the line. But Muncy got in position, made strong throws, made good throws, bouncing it to Freeman when he needed to, and Muncy, and then hitting the home run. If we can get a version of Max Muncy that makes the plays defensively and hits home runs, obviously it'd be nice to get some singles too, get the batting average up there, get the on-base percentage up there. But all in all, like, this version of Max Muncy, pretty awesome. Extra base hits were looking good. There's still question marks. Austin Barnes is still Austin Barnes. Miguel Vargas is still struggling really bad. James Outman had a rough night. Really it was the top 3. other than Miguel Vargas, he got a lucky double, a ball that literally dropped 3 feet in front of Jack Sawinski that should have been caught. Sawinski lost it, and Vargas got a double. Everything else, the other 6 hits came from Betts, Freeman, and Muncy. 2 for Betts, 3 for Freeman, 1 for Muncy, 2 homers, and 3 doubles among those 6 hits from those 3 guys. That's what got it done. But we've seen the rest of the lineup contribute. We've seen even, the parts of the lineup with Peralta and Hayward and JD Martinez and Miguel Rojas, who didn't play in this game. They're getting contributions. In this game, it was the top 3, but that's not what it always is. So I feel like with the D-backs scuffling right now, with the Dodgers in good position in the division, and the potential of Julio being back and getting through this game without having to use Evan Phillips or Caleb Ferguson, and so getting those guys some rest, they're set up well to face the banged up Angels for 2 games and then go into the All-Star break, get recuperated. Like, as poorly as things have gone for the Dodgers this year, they're half a game out of first place, and there's plenty of reasons for optimism. Obviously, I am more optimistic than some people wish I was, but the fact is, this was a good series win, a good win in this game, and this is our last episode before the All-Star break. So Vince is going to come talk to you in a minute about the NL West, his thoughts on this game, and then you won't see me again till till the All-Star break has started. So I appreciate it. I love talking Dodgers with you, and Vince will be along in a minute.
Yo, Dodger fans. Vince here to close out the episode. And as Jeff mentioned, the Dodgers are now just half a game behind the Diamondbacks in the NL West and having a better month so far in the month of July than they did in June. So far, the Diamondbacks are 1-4 in July, so that's given the Dodgers opportunity here to get back. Well, they were never out of the race, but, get closer and have the potential to go into the break with the lead in the NL West. And you take a look at the standings right now as they sit. Arizona's on top. Dodgers are half a game back. The Giants are 2.5 games back. The Padres are 8.5 games back. And then obviously Colorado's out. So as of now, the Dodgers are 2 games up on the Giants, 8 games up on the Padres. And like Jeff said, the Dodgers got to get wins now. So they're playing for the now. And if you kind of stick to, not discounting the Giants, I believe the Giants are still going to have, they're still going to be there toward the end at this point. Just a matter of how close. If they end up going and making some deadline deals, that could obviously swing some things in their favor. I'm not ready to completely say the Padres are out, but it would take a lot, obviously, for them to outplay the Giants and Dodgers and Diamondbacks all by 6 or more games the rest of the season. It's kind of tough to see, especially, like I said, considering they haven't even had a stretch. I think right now them beating the Angels this week, and they haven't had a stretch where they've looked hot or looked good. Not that can't happen. Not that, maybe AJ Preller decides to trade the rest of the farm system and goes after somebody or something. I don't know. But again, I don't see them as a huge factor at the moment. That could always change. But I think if the Padres are going to be a playoff team, it's going to be in a wild card spot. And, now everyone's kind of turning on them and the Mets. The Mets had a good week, helping out the Dodgers with the Diamondbacks. They're both 41 and 46 going into a weekend series against each other. So yeah, it remains to be seen, obviously, but I don't see that happening. But if you look at just kind of the NL West and you Giants, we won't talk about them in depth right now just because they're behind the Dodgers, but obviously they could factor into it. But we look at the Diamondbacks and we look at the Dodgers and kind of what to expect here in the second half of the season. And, a lot of this is kind of contingent on what's up with Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll for the Diamondbacks, Rookie of the Year candidate and almost MVP candidate, hurt himself last night on a swing. So it looked like something with the shoulder. It was reported after the game that he might be fine. He's going to get an MRI on Friday, and then they'll kind of, see where he's at. So if he's injured for a while, or if he gets hurt for any time longer than like a month, I don't think the Diamondbacks have enough in the rest of the team in order to hold that over and I would still imagine them to be a good team, but I don't expect them to be the way they've been playing so far this season. But if he's healthy and ready to go after the All-Star break, then, I do expect them to continue to battle. And I do think that they might make a couple trades or at least be open to a couple trades. Nothing like, I don't think there's anything out there over the top for them unless it's, somebody that comes with some team control. But I do think, they expect them to make some moves and try to keep up top. Well, if they are up top after the All-Star break, the NL West. But you look at the Dodgers and you look at the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks are doing all this with relatively good health, at least at the moment. They've had a couple injuries here and there, but the big one for them is Merrill Kelly, who was their number 2. He's currently on the injured list. But other than that, there's not a significant contributor that's hurt. They have everybody pretty much that they're going to have in on the roster right now. And the Dodgers on the other side have, even if they don't make any trades, the Dodgers could see Walker Buehler and JP Fireeisen at some point this season. They could see Daniel Hudson at some point again this season, although I didn't like the way they said that he'd be out for quite some time, and like Jeff mentioned, talking about how they hope he gets back before the season ends. You never want to hear that when it's July, but again, we'll see what happens. They'll get Clayton Kershaw back likely after the break. They'll get Shelby Miller back hopefully at some point in the next month or so. They might get Jimmy Nelson back at some point. They might get Ryan Pepiot back at some point. Noah Syndergaard, I don't know if we necessarily want him back, but if he happens to figure something out, the Dodgers could get him back at some point. And it seemed like that point almost came this weekend. Dave Roberts said that Syndergaard's sim start or bullpen, whatever he was supposed to throw on Thursday, got pushed back a day in the crazy scenario that the Dodgers would have needed him to hopefully give them some innings. I believe that's more so if like Graterol and maybe somebody else got hurt or something like that, but Graterol ended up staying on the roster. And then offensively, it's just Chris Taylor really that the Dodgers are expecting back as a contributor. Trace Thompson, I guess at some point could come back, but it doesn't seem it doesn't seem like they're waiting for Trace Thompson to come back. So offensively, it's just Chris Taylor. But on the pitching side, I mean, there's a lot of guys that could come back, and some of those guys are not. We wouldn't expect them to at least September, anyways. Again, Shelby Miller, hopefully before August or in August. Daniel Hudson. August seems generous at this point, given what they've been saying, but maybe toward the end of August, early September. Nelson could be coming back sooner rather than later, assuming he continues to pitch well and react and recover well from his rehab starts in OKC. And then you got Pepiot and Buehler, Fireeisen at some point in the season. So just based on that, the Dodgers would appear to have some advantage in the second half in the terms of they're going to get healthier. And, this is also assuming that nobody else gets hurt, but they're going to get healthier. And the fact that they've done all this, they're only half a game back of the Diamondbacks with all these injuries, with every single member of their starting rotation, plus Pepiot spending at least, some time on the injured list this season, with them losing a reliever almost every other week, with a bunch of relievers being ineffective and kind of coming up and down. We saw Nick Robertson and Alex Vesia provide an inning of relief yesterday, a scoreless inning of relief, which is, great. And hopefully a sign of things to come, at least for Vesia. And Nick Robertson was more of a guy product of the situation rather than somebody that would have been up regardless of a situation this year. I don't think we would have seen Nick Robertson had it not been for all these injuries, whereas Vesia was on the opening day roster. We expect him to be good. He hasn't been good, but there's still time to turn that around. So in terms of like roster, second half coming up, and based on what's happened in the first half and everything else, the Dodgers would appear to have the advantage over the Diamondbacks in that sense. And also they appear to have the advantage in the fact of they, on paper, a better team. The Diamondbacks have Zach Gallen, who might be better, or numbers wise, not better than Kershaw so far this season, but stuff and like close enough in numbers to where you could say Gallen is the best pitcher on both teams and not get too much brushback. But then the Dodgers have probably the next 3 starters before you get to Merrill Kelly. Between Kershaw, Julio, or for sure 2. And then, Gonsolin could be better than Merrill Kelly, although he hasn't been this season. Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, I guess in theory could, but so maybe the next 2. But either way, the Dodgers, and then after that, I think the Dodgers have it the rest of the way in terms of starting pitching. So the Dodgers have the advantage in roster. The Dodgers have the advantage in health in terms of getting guys back. The Diamondbacks have the current leg up in terms of current health. And then you just kind of look at the Diamondbacks roster and you're like, how are they doing this? Because you got, again, it's Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly and then some dudes. Like there's nobody that I can't realistically, without having seen them play the Dodgers in a while and looking at their roster, it's like, wait, which ones are the starting pitchers and which ones are the relievers? I know Zach Davies is a starter, but then they have a bunch of guys, and that's not to say that those guys can't continue to pitch well or be good for the Diamondbacks. I'm just saying, you look at it and you're like, okay, how are they getting this done? That offensively, Corbin Carroll and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. have been great for them there in the outfield. They got, Christian Walker is always a threat. They got Ketel Marte, who's been really, really good at second base. Other than that, you got, other guys, Nick Ahmed, Evan Longoria, Geraldo Perdomo, who wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, if you had to give me Evan Longoria or Max Muncy, I'd probably take Max Muncy. Longoria, a little bit older. He's having a decent year, though. He's OPS in 850, so it's not like, anything. But I would bet on Max Muncy in the second half over him. You'd bet on a lot of the guys from the Dodgers over some of these guys. Ketel Marte, unless Mookie Betts plays second base full time, the Diamondbacks will have that advantage at second base. First base, Freddie over Christian Walker. Shortstop, whether it's Perdomo or Ahmed, Perdomo's been hitting well so far this season. So you could give him the advantage over Rojas in that sense, but Rojas has been hitting better lately. So if you give me the new Rojas, you take that in the outfield. Corbin Carroll, Mookie Betts. At this point, a wash. Carroll's been really good. He has 18 home runs. He has 24 stolen bases. Mookie doesn't quite have the stolen bases. Mookie's got a little bit more home runs. But overall, Corbin Carroll's been really, really, really good. But then you look at, Gurriel, he's been really good. If you combine Jason Hayward and Peralta into maybe one guy, then they kind of add up to Gurriel. So there's the Dodgers have the better roster, and the Dodgers have the health coming back on their side. The Diamondbacks are already healthy. Either way, you look at the NL West, and at the currently stands, the Dodgers not should have the advantage, but could have the advantage, assuming their offense continues to play well and they get back some of these pitchers and they start getting healthier. Now, I don't think the Dodgers could withstand the second half like the first half in terms of all the injuries and everything else. But again, we're going to play this like everyone comes back healthy and nobody else gets hurt. So look forward to the second half in terms of battling the Diamondbacks, battling the Giants, maybe battling the Padres. We'll see. But, I still expect the Dodgers to be on top of the NL West by the time it comes down to it. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to become an everyday by listening every day. You can make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your family. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. DMs are open if you need to get a hold of us. You can find the Dodgers home broadcast on SiriusXM or the SXM app for any game. Just search Dodgers. You can find us on there as well. If you search Locked On Dodgers, you can email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com. You can send us a voicemail or text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.